everybody and welcome to today's video. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make these rich and fluffy chocolate cupcakes. Now as you can see, these cupcakes are super chocolatey. They're going to be filled with a melted chocolate spread topped with a rich chocolate buttercream, chocolate drizzle and a mini bar of chocolate. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 180 degrees or 160 for fan. Then we're going to prepare our mini chocolate bars. So you want to measure out around 60 grams of milk or dark chocolate and microwave in small bursts until fully melted. Then you just want to pour your chocolate into your mould. Then just take a palette knife and try to spread it as evenly as possible, filling each section of the mould. Then just take the side of the palette knife and scrape across the top to get rid of any excess. Now to get these as neat and level as possible, I do recommend just dropping it on the surface a couple times, and this will release a few air bubbles while also levelling out the chocolate. You can do this as many times as you like. As you can see, I have a little pesky air bubble at the front that I was really adamant on trying to get rid of. There it is. Then you just want to clear the decks, and then we're going to grab our tray. So this recipe makes enough for 12 cupcakes, so I've got my 12 hole tray here, and you're just going to fill it with your cupcake cases. Okay, once your tray is filled, it's time to grab a mixing bowl, and we're going to be measuring out 150 grams of self-raising flour. I'm just popping that through a sieve. Then to that you want to add 25 grams of a good quality cocoa powder. Now the best cocoa powders to use are the ones that you find in the baking aisle, rather than the ones in the drinking chocolates aisle, because they're a bit different and they don't produce as much of a rich flavour. So I definitely recommend looking in the baking aisle for your cocoa powders. Next you just want to add 175 grams of caster sugar and pop that through the sieve as well. Then the last dry ingredient we're going to be adding is 1/4 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. Then to your dry ingredients you just want to add 175 grams of margarine. Now I use margarine over butter, but you could use butter. I just find that margarine's a bit easier to use because it's a spread. You can grab it straight out of the fridge and you don't have to soften it like you would with butter. And it produces a really nice light and fluffy cake as well. Then you just want to measure out 3 large eggs and add that to your bowl. Then I'm going to fit my mixer with a paddle attachment. You could also do this with a hand mixer as well. And you just want to mix this together on a medium to high speed for 1 minute. And then after a minute, you want to grab a rubber spatula and we're just going to scrape around the bowl and any parts from the bottom that might not have been mixed in. This happens a lot with stand mixers, some parts get left out at the bottom, so I recommend giving it a good scrape around. Then lastly, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of whole milk. And just mix that for around 30 seconds, not too long, just to incorporate it all together. Then you just want to grab your tray from earlier and we're going to start spooning the mixture into the cases. So I'm actually using a mini ice cream scoop here, but you could use teaspoons, it works just the same. You just want to make sure that your case is around 2/3 full. Okay, once you're happy they're all evenly filled, it's time to pop these in the oven, and we're going to bake these for around 20 to 25 minutes. Now this may differ depending on your oven, so it's best to check earlier the better to make sure you haven't overbaked them. You'll know they're baked when if you insert them with a skewer, like so, and then it comes out clean. That means there's no raw batter left behind and they're perfectly baked. Okay, then it's time to start making this gorgeous chocolate buttercream. So for this, you'll want to make sure you have room temperature butter. Now you'll know it's the right temperature if when you press it with your fingers it leaves a light indent, and that means it's not too soft, it's not really melted, but it's also not too firm either. So for this amount of cupcakes, you will need around 200 grams of unsalted butter. And we're just going to beat this again with a paddle attachment for around 5 minutes. Now you should notice that it starts off quite a yellowy colour, and after 5 minutes it will go much lighter and paler and silkier in texture. Okay, once your butter has become nice and light and silky, it's time to add the icing sugar. So you'll need 460 grams. And we're just going to add this in stages. You want to add around 1/3 of the icing sugar, and then we're going to beat for around 2 minutes until it's nicely incorporated. So it should start to thicken up and look nice and creamy like so. Then you just want to add your second third of icing sugar. So you want to add your last third of icing sugar, and we're also then going to be adding around 30 grams of cocoa powder, and that's what's going to make this nice and chocolatey. Then just mix this together for another 2 minutes. Now you may notice at this stage that it starts to go really quite thick and even a bit dry. That's totally fine, it's part of the process, because after this we're going to be adding some milk. So we're going to add around 3 tablespoons of milk for this recipe. You might want to add a bit more milk if you find your buttercream still a bit too stiff, or a bit less milk if your buttercream's a bit softer. It really depends on the temperature in your room and the temperature your butter was when you started. So add more or less depending on your consistency. So the sort of consistency we're looking for is that it's just nice and soft and spreadable. As you can see when I glide my spatula through it, it doesn't fight against me, it's really soft and silky. But at the same time, if I poke it with my spatula, it holds a nice peak, and that shows that it'll hold its shape when we pipe with it. Then it is time to fill your piping bag with your buttercream. So I've got this little contraption here that actually pulls your piping bag for you, and as you can see I'm using a piping bag fitted with a closed star nozzle. And I'm just going to pop it into my piping bag holder, and of course if you don't actually have one of these you could just use like a tall glass or something to hold your piping bag for you, just something that makes it a bit easier. Then once your piping bag is filled, you just want to twist the end, and then we're going to pop it aside for later. And then we're going to get preparing our filling. So you want to measure out around 100 grams of milk chocolate spread, and we're just going to melt this in short bursts in the microwave. So once it is nicely melted like so, you want to grab another piping bag, and we're going to fill it with our lovely chocolate mixture, and this is just going to make it really easy to dispense into each of our cupcakes. And then again you just want to twist the top to secure it and pop aside for later. And by this time your mini chocolate bar should be nice and ready to be popped out of the mould, so if you just want to go ahead and pop each one out very carefully and place them on a board or some greaseproof paper, and then pop them back in the fridge just until they're ready to use. Okay, then it's time to start putting everything together. So we're going to start coring the cupcakes. I'm using a cupcake corer, but you could use a knife and just cut out the centre of each cupcake. Then you just want to grab your chocolate spread piping bag from earlier and snip the tip and start filling each cupcake. And you want to make sure you have some left over to drizzle on top as decoration. grab your chocolate buttercream from earlier and we're just going to pipe generous swirls onto each one. So you want to start in the middle and squeeze down. I'm going to swirl around once and then twice to get a lovely swirl. Then it's time to grab the rest of your melted chocolate spread and just drizzle on top of each cupcake. Then lastly, to finish it off, just grab your mini chocolate bars from the fridge and pop one into each cupcake. And there we go, those are my finished chocolate cupcakes. So if you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe. And if you do make these, let me know down below, that would be really, really cool. And I'll be back next week with some more recipes. Thanks for watching, bye!